So, here's a really big question. After a serious injury, how can we be sure that someone is truly ready to go back to work? It's a huge deal for everyone involved. And believe it or not, part of the answer might just be hiding in these little doll chairs. But as you're about to see, these are definitely not toys. And this is the real problem we're up against. There's this massive gap between doing well on a test in a perfectly quiet room and actually surviving the day-to-day chaos of a real job.
So if you could just fill this out for me.
Okay.
Just think about the difference for a second. Standard testing, a pencil and a piece of paper in a silent room focusing on one single thing. But real work that's in a busy and hurried work environment, you're constantly multitasking. Someone could totally ace the test in that quiet room and then just completely fall apart in the real world.
American 235, descend and maintain flight level 240.
That's the clinic-to-workplace gap. For a person with a brain injury, or stroke, or Parkinson's disease, or some other brain impairment, neuropsychologists test one or two variables at a time in a quiet room without interruptions. Occupational therapists try to build on that information by doing functional testing of job tasks in a simulated work environment. So how do you actually test a person's work capacity? This is where a really clever tool comes into play, one that was specifically designed to bridge the gap between the clinic and the workplace. It uses a generic work simulation and places it within a standardized work environment, in this case, the doll chair assembly task at the Goldilocks Chair Company. Goldilocks is a fictional business that has 4 employees who are balancing their work responsibilities with their family's demands. Functional testing of just right challenging job tasks in a simulated work environment helps us understand the person's work capacity out in the real world. The DCAT is a work simulation that doesn't just test one isolated ability, it measures how a person's impairments actually impact their ability to work when you throw real-world job demands at them. And it does this by mixing a hands-on physical task with cognitive curveballs. Let's make this real. Let's see how this actually works. Meet Joanna. She's recovering from a brain injury, and she feels like she's ready to get back to her job as an acute care nurse. But her therapist, Susan, needs to be sure she can really handle the cognitive load. So here's what happens. Susan gets Joanna to start building the mama bear chair, but then partway through, a phone rings.
Hi, Ronald. It's Cindy, of course. It's 7:39 and Bill still is running a fever this morning. I'm going to take him to the doctor's and I should be there by around 10 o'clock, but if you need anything in the meantime, please give me a call, 908-778-7046.
Joanna has to stop what she's doing, listen carefully, write down the message, and then, and this is the most important part, go right back to building the chair at the exact spot she was interrupted. This is where you get the real data. And the DCAT isn't some one-size-fits-all thing. The therapist has 18 different levels of difficulty to choose from. They can change the complexity of the chair itself from a simple baby bear to a trickier mama bear or papa bear, and they can make the phone message more or less detailed. The whole point is to find that just right challenge that's perfectly tailored to each person. Okay, so you might be wondering, why build a tiny chair? Why listen to a phone call and transcribe the message? A standard test can be great at telling you what the deficit is. It might say you have a 20% reduction in working memory, but the DCAT is designed to show you the functional impact. It answers the question, what does a 20% deficit actually mean? It means you can't remember a customer's phone number if you get interrupted, and that's the information that really matters, because that's the whole point, right? Life, and especially work, is never a single task. We are always juggling things, integrating skills, and that's why this test is so powerful, because it mimics that messy multitasking reality. In neuroscience, they call this ecological validity. The test actually looks like real life. And those interruptions are not random at all. They're specifically designed to stress test the CEO of your brain, your executive functions. Can you switch from one task to another smoothly? Can you remember to go back to what you were doing before? Can you tune out distractions? And can you handle the frustration of being pulled away from your work? These are the abilities that really determine success. But look, for a test like this to be taken seriously, it can't just be a clever idea. It has to be built on a totally rock-solid scientific foundation. The DCAT is built on the test factors hierarchy. Everything starts with safety. Once you have that, you can work on reliability. Only then can you prove validity that the test really measures what you say it does. After that, you can think about practicality and utility. Does it actually give you useful information? For rehabilitation planning, does it tell you what to do next? And the truth is that it usually does. But perhaps even more importantly, it helps the client appreciate that rehabilitation is necessary and something to which they need to commit themselves. Okay, so let's circle back to Joanna. What does her performance on this little test actually mean for her getting back to her job? Her therapist, Susan, uses something called the Employability Rating Scale to translate what she observed into really practical information. If Joanna gets a competitive score, she's good to go. No extra support needed, but a coached rating might suggest, hey, she might need a little bit of guidance at first. It gives Joanna and her employer a clear, actionable game plan, and this is the whole point. The DCAT isn't about getting a score like some pass or fail final exam. It's a diagnostic tool. The fact that Joanna struggled with the interruptions gives Susan a clear idea of what to do next. What to work on in rehab to help Joanna truly succeed when she returns to work. So what's the big takeaway here? This little test challenges a really fundamental idea about how we measure people's abilities. What's the best way to measure our clients' abilities in job tasks? Occupational therapists need tools that present progressive occupational demands with a graded cognitive overlay on psychomotor tasks. DCAT is the first of many tools we're working on to meet that need. The DCAT has 4 crucial purposes. First, to engage the client in a meaningful task that simulates everyday activities. Second, to provide a standardized calibration of progressive occupational demand. Third, to measure the client's responses to these demands. And fourth, to be sensitive to executive dysfunctions. It's a lot to get out of a little test and 30 minutes of the client's time, but it's a great start on their road back to work. So, we thank you very much for your time and attention. To observe a 5-minute administration of the Baby Bear Work Sample Test, one of the 18 DCAT assessments, click here. I suggest that you consider subscribing to this channel and signing up for future video lessons and training programs. If you have questions or would like additional resources to help your clients restore their quality of life, we can be reached at mathesondevelopment.com.